Welcome to episode 3 of the Brent Talks podcast, produced by My Romania Community and brought to you by the Young Brent Foundation in association with Brent Council. I'm Errol Donald, and over the past few weeks I have been talking to professionals working in Brent to explore the impact of the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic on communities, families and friendship groups. We have covered mental health and education, and this week we will discuss youth and community with our final episode focusing on employment. I'm joined today by Ayodeji Adeoshun, Youth and Community Manager at Young Brent Foundation. Ayodeji has been involved in working with young people for 18 years, but has spent the last 8 leading on various national programs such as Talent Match, Moving On Up, and improving outcomes for young black men. Ayodeji, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
So, could you just tell us a little bit about the Young Brent Foundation, first of all?
Yes, the Young Brent Foundation is the umbrella organisation for the voluntary sector here in Brent, of organisations that are focused on supporting young people to basically be the best that they can be. At the moment we have about 200 organisations that are members, and I guess our role is really to work with them to bring in resources, support with any upskilling opportunities, and really look for partnership working. I guess that's the role that we play.
Thank you. And so, does the YBF have a mission? You know, is there anything they're aiming to accomplish?
Yeah, YBF, we have a mission, definitely. I think for us it's about making sure that young people have the best opportunities in terms of youth engagement. We want young people to have fun. We want young people to have every opportunity that London has to offer in terms of employment, in terms of activities, in terms of youth work. And I guess for us, we just want to see young people thrive, and we want to work with our member organisations to see young people thrive. That's it. Young people are at the forefront and at the front of everything we do.
Thank you, Ayodeji. So you've obviously been working in the youth sector for a number of years, as I mentioned at the beginning. So could you just tell me a bit more about your role and your impressions of Brent?
Yeah, so my role as youth and community engagement manager, really, my role really is to kind of meet the membership, understand the activities that they're doing, looking at how the opportunities really for partnership working, where we can bring different organisations. You know, Brent is such a massive borough. You know, we're talking about 89,000 young people based in this borough. You know, and so we're looking to cover as much of the borough as we can, and really just, yeah, I guess it's just supporting the work of the sector really. My first impressions of Brent, I would say, I feel like I'm from Brent now. I feel like I'm from down the road. It's got a good vibe. There's a rich culture. I guess for me, I was kind of surprised at the level of diversity in the borough. I believe there's about 142 different languages spoken in this borough, which is just amazing. And yeah, I love it here. You know, I feel like, you know, I want to move here. I think there's so much opportunity, so much richness. From the people that I've met, you know, the young people, really intelligent, really hungry, really vibrant. The membership, the youth members in the borough as well, really quite innovative with their work, and yeah, it's a pleasure. I feel honoured to be here, to be honest with you, and I'm hoping I can be here for a while.
So it sounds as though you get out and about in your role. It sounds as though you're quite active in terms of getting out, meeting people, forging relationships, and maintaining those relationships. So given your interaction with people, can you remember your initial response to the lockdown?
Yeah, I mean, if I could just take it back a little bit, you know, I joined Young Brent Foundation in January, and you know, one of the key things that I wanted to do was to meet as many of the organisations as possible, really just get to know them, understand the work. I had heard so much about many organisations in the borough, and so I was just, you know, like a young person, just keen to go out and just meet and also put my face there. I guess for me also, part of the reason for that is I am in a new territory, and I wanted to make sure that any ideas that was coming from Young Brent Foundation was really coming from the ground. I'm somebody who's about the grassroots and from the ground up in terms of my approach to work. And so look, I'm just getting stuck in really in March, and I've met a few organizations, and I remember the lockdown like it was yesterday, because literally we, on March the 12th, which happens to be my birthday, for those of you out there who wants to get me a gift, I'm literally speaking to the CEO of Young Brent Foundation. We're listening to the news, we're listening to the broadcast about this potential lockdown and what it might mean. And to be honest with you, at first I thought this was a movie. I thought this was something out of Netflix, where could this really be happening? How is that going to impact on my work? Does that mean I can't go out? I wasn't really sure. I guess like many people, everything was just up in the air. And literally the next day, we get a phone call. We're on lockdown. Don't come in, at least for the foreseeable future. Now for me, I was in shock, and it was a massive blow, because also at that moment, I was like, what am I going to do? The key part of my work is going out, meeting the organizations, doing what they do. And here we are, there's a national lockdown. So the first thing is I can't see what people do. So that's a challenge. But I find that one of the things that was quite relief and refreshing was the fact that we were kind of all in it together, where actually we were all looking for a response. We were all looking for how we can kind of unite. And so we kind of created this online platform. Everybody did at the time. Zoom became your best friend, became your right arm. And we kind of created the network, YBF network meetings, which was really an opportunity for us as organizations, as partners, as colleagues, as friends, to share about some of the impact and what it was having on our organizations. And then being able to kind of share that impact with funders, local community response and John Lyons, to kind of name a few. So actually, in that moment, I thought it brought a bit of togetherness. So in that chaos, actually something positive came out of it. So I think, we've been quite fortunate. And I would say that over that time, we've managed to build some fantastic relationships with many members, which I don't know, would we have been able to kind of build those relationships had we not have had the lockdown? I don't know. But I think there's a trust between YBF and the membership now that I think is unique.
So would you say that you have successfully adjusted to working virtually? And do you think there is a place for virtual working in the sector moving forward?
Definitely. Look, is there a place for virtual working in the sector moving forward? I think 100% yes. I'll be quite honest with you. When I was planning the YBF network meeting was always something I had planned to do in April. But I was under no illusions, If I got 6 people to kind of turn up to that network meeting, then I would have gone outside and bought myself a coffee and given myself a very good pat on the back, because that's a pretty good turnout. But what we've seen is that we've had on average about 40 members turning up, which is more than what I could have imagined and expected. And I think going forward, having specific items like network meetings and strategic meetings, I think those types of meetings, they can be done online. But I think where you need to be more creative and you're doing things in the community, I think the jury's still out, if I'm being online. I think there's an element of face-to-face working that you can't replicate online. And one of the things that I found also with over this period of time, and I'm no doubt colleagues would kind of identify with this, is that if you've had relationships with individuals and people, it was easy to kind of get them online. But if you didn't have those relationships, especially with young people, then trying to get them online was probably one of the hardest things you could do. So I think there's a challenge but we're learning. And I guess for me, one motto that I live by is the kind of motto of test and learn. We're always testing here and we're always learning. What works, we continue to do. And if we try something and it doesn't work, we'll try something else, and I think we should have the freedom to do that.
That's a great approach, Deji. And thank you for sharing that. I guess given your work and what we know about the virus, particularly in Brent, so we know that of all the London boroughs, Brent has been hardest hit by the coronavirus pandemic. What's your sense of how young people in Brent are coping with the pandemic from a youth perspective?
Yeah, so in terms of, I think young people in Brent, I have to say that I'm really impressed at the level of resilience that the young people have shown, especially during the lockdown. We quite quickly, provided with partners a detached outreach response early on in April.
What's detached outreach?
Yeah, so detached outreach is a youth work approach to approaching young people. So detached outreach is really about meeting young people in their environment, in their space, and providing the service rather than having it in a designated space like a youth centre, for example. So we, with a number of organisations, provided a detached outreach response, and the general feeling on the ground was that young people were following the rules, abiding by the guidelines, but also there was a lot of mental health stuff that was kind of coming out very early on. We identified quite early the tenseness. Young people saying, "Look, I live in a house. It's a 2-bedroom flat. There's 6 to 8 of my family members here. I'm trying to do my university studies. I can't really do my university studies, but at the same time, I'm being told to go outside. Even, I want to go outside, but I'm being told to stay in." And listening to kind of those challenges that young people were going and dealing with, and having to say, look, actually, it's all right for you to come out and have that hour break, and really also challenging some of our organizations to see what kind of response that they could do within a difficult time to kind of meet some of those challenges. There was a lot of boredom as well from the young people wanting things to do, young people wanting to be reassured. There a lot of anxiety, a lot of mental health, young people also not knowing, really feeling quite bad about the exam situation, and I don't blame them. For me personally, if I compare my mock exams to my final exams, it's like night and day. I did really well in my final exams. And here we are, young people saying, look, if they're going to give me my predicted grade, I don't think I want that, and is there a way that we can resit? Is there anything that we can do? And trying to alleviate, and a lot of partners that was providing that detached outreach response and reassurance did a great job in speaking to the young people and also just being visible. But I think in the main, I think the young people done quite well. They showed a lot of resilience because, look, let's just be honest. You hear it all the time on the news. It's unprecedented times. Essentially, we were on lockdown for 6 months. That's half the year, not being able to do what you normally do. And the fact is, the young people have pulled through and survived. And fingers crossed, we can get back to some sort of normalities, very soon.
It's interesting you mention the word survival, because it does sound very much from what you're saying that young people are in survival mode. So I guess the question that comes to mind is how are they surviving?
Yeah, it's difficult. The young people are doing what they can. And I think, again, it's a testament to the sector in terms of the responses and being able to meet some of the need on the ground. I think for me, the young people are trying to keep themselves busy. So although the majority will say they just want their space, they just want their time, they don't want to do everything online, they are engaging in some of these activities and they are finding things to do. They want to do things, they want to help their local communities. And I believe that as we got closer towards the summer, we could see more of that. As more and more organizations got involved in doing activities, we saw a lot of young people. I mean, we did a piece of work on one of the local estates in the borough, and we met about 180 young people over 3 weeks who kind of all got their hands and got involved, and they were working with some really, really key and excellent member organizations. But off the back of that particular estate now has a steering group of 9 young people, where now they're calling the shots. They're saying, look, this is how we're going to survive going forward. This is what we need. This is what we need to see opened. And these are the sorts of employment opportunities that we want. And I think that, for me, that particular area is a beacon of great practice. And I believe that that's something that is echoing around. And what I've actually seen over the last few months is it's almost kind of like a springboard of youth boards being developed, dotted about the borough now. You know, we've got young people now. There's a youth IG in the pipeline, young people wanting to bridge the gap between certain areas in Brent and the police. We've got young people wanting to advise in terms of employment opportunities. We've got young people wanting to get involved in Brent as a borough of culture. There's a lot. We've got there's a Park Royal development. We've got young people interested in planning. You know, we've got about 6-7 young people who are really technical detail of planning and how it's going to look. And I think the Park Royal development is going to be one of the biggest developments in Europe. And these young people are asking some questions, and I'm just like, whoa, I'm blown away at the level of, you know, of detail that they're going into. So, you know, I guess for me, I'm humbled on a personal level, but also excited at the opportunities that is coming our way in the borough as well, because we've got so much talent in Brent, and we just want that talent to just flourish.
Thank you. And so picking up on something you just mentioned, so next, as I mentioned earlier on, the next podcast we'll be doing, we'll be focusing on employment, and you've mentioned employment in your response. Could you just maybe expand upon the employment situation for young people from your perspective in terms of the work that you're doing?
Yeah, look, and I'm no doubt in the next session they're going to talk about the employment situation right now is stark. I think predominantly young people would be involved in jobs such as retail, hospitality, and every day we're seeing those jobs go. And I think for me, the kind of messaging that I would want to send to the sectors is that we need to be quite creative in the way that we engage young people in employment going forward. So what do I mean by that? I think before, a lot of the onus has always been on the young person to present themselves, to be the best that they can possibly be. But I also would like to present a challenge to employers to see how could you, as an employment service, be more accessible? How can we utilize technology, social media as real job opportunities for young people? We know that young people are using these spaces, they're good in this space. Organizations are now accessing this whole new world, social media platforms. Can young people tap into that? But also it's about, I call it in-reach. There's an in-reach approach. You know, I think we're so used to this model of everybody's got to go to the employer. And I would like to challenge employers. Why don't you come out and meet some of the young people that we have? Why don't you come to a local estate? There's so much talent there. I think some young people don't feel that the opportunities in the area that they live is for them. What better way to show that you really want these people, you really value them, you really care about their future, by you going, meeting them where they are and saying, look, these are the jobs, future opportunities that we have, and you can tap into it. But also, I think we have to be honest. I think them days where we used to talk about what do you want to do and support a young person to get there, you know, I think those days are quickly going as the lockdown progresses, you know, if there's no money. And I think we have to be real and let the young people know this is where the reality of the current pandemic, this is the hole it's created, but these are the opportunities it's also created, and encourage young people to think in that, and also get in the way of you can see I'm quite passionate about this. But your default to employment advice to young person is let's knock him into a construction job. Why don't you just go and do construction? I think it's a little bit more than that. It's careers, not jobs for young people. And I think you get that message across, then I think we can do something, but I think we can't be lazy. We can't be lazy with employment. And
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Zechi. So you mentioned earlier on, or maybe I mentioned earlier on, the network meetings. So you're pulling together groups and you're having more regular meetings and you're building that community of member organizations. How does the work of YBF, or how are you working more strategically with groups now, particularly in response to the pandemic? Has the work or the nature of your work or the nature of relationship, has that changed because of the pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, naturally, of course, the nature of our work because of the pandemic has changed. We YBF we're an umbrella, we're an infrastructure organisation, and our job really is to support and advise. And what we found is that we're doing more contract management, working with the membership, obviously. But what we've seen is that there's a number of holes, there's a number of gaps that needed to be filled. And so what we've been able to do is we've been able to work closely with partners to provide a quick response to some of the gaps on the ground. So I said to you, we were able to provide a detached outreach service within, literally a week or two of the lockdown. That was quick, move fast. We were able to provide like a summer program on an estate, literally within 5 days. We turned that around, working in partnership. And I think what we've been able to do, and which has been helpful, is that kind of quick responding to need on the ground. And we've been able to do that quickly with our membership. And I think and we found ourselves doing stuff that maybe ordinarily we wouldn't do, but given the nature of how things are, it just felt right with our membership to kind of work in this way where we're delivering this work together as a team. And it's worked. And I said, there's a lot of learning that we're all learning from that. But I think we've been able to kind of, of course, we're playing that strategic role, but we are delivering alongside with the partnership. And I guess that would probably be the slight change. But that's only until things improve. Ideally, what we want to do is focus on bringing in enough resources so that our membership can do what they do best. That's really what my role is. My role as youth and community engagement lead is to understand the need of our members and provide and find additional resources to do what they do best, and then to think as a partnership strategically, how can we come together to identify this gap? So one of the things for us as a voluntary sector, which you're picking up on, is the employment, but mental health is a big thing. How as a sector can we pull together to tackle mental health? How as a sector can we pull together to provide an effective outreach or activities program for young people? We're in the brink. For me, I believe we're on the brink of a second lockdown, and that means youth clubs shutting down again. But we can't have youth clubs shutting down again and there's nothing for the young people. We've seen that doesn't. So what can we do as an alternative? It's about thinking about those things in partnership. So we're just responding to need at the moment.
Thank you. What clearly comes across, Deji, is your passion and your commitment to affecting change for young people in Brent. But I just think generally young people anyway. I think that's what comes across to me when I speak to you. So I am interested to hear from you. If the work of YBF is successful, what will have changed for young people in Brent?
Wow. If the work of YBF is successful, what would have changed for young people? I would like to think that what we would have done is we would have supported and contributed to I talk about the good work that has been going on in the borough, but one of the things that we want to do is expand the opportunities for young people, as an example. So we talk about wanting young people to be able to access opportunities outside of Brent. I think it would be amazing if young people were able to study abroad, take part in youth exchanges abroad, those types of things. That would be amazing. I know it's been happening, but why can't we have it on a larger scale? I think having, there are youth committees or steering groups, but having that as the norm with many organisations in the borough, I think that would be a beacon of success. I'll give you an example. We did a piece of work on an estate, and it was a youth voice activity. We had young people going on the estate asking young people about how would you want your estate to look? What are the issues on your estate? How would you want your estate to change? And based on those responses, 2 things came out. 3 things. They wanted some sort of employment service. They wanted some sort of activities for the young people to do over the summer. And they wanted a steering group that had teeth. And what I mean by teeth is a steering group that had power to make decisions. So you're talking about youth leadership, but genuine youth leadership. And at the end of that project, the young people were able to organise or plan an employability event. They organised and planned a 4-week activities. And just so you know, there had not been a kind of activity service kind of for the older age group. So we're talking about 11 to 18. For about 6 years, they were able to successfully design, implement during the pandemic. And they've got a steering group. And I think that is a fantastic model, because actually those young people will also be paid for the work that they're doing, and they're contributing in a positive way to where they live. And I think there's nothing more powerful than to see the young people from Brent actively taking care, having an active role in improving their local community. And I think if we can see more of that, then yes, I think then it's been a success. And I would just say to you, Errol, what a pleasure! What a pleasure it has been to see this work just kind of expand and rocket, in the borough.
Well, it has been an absolute pleasure to hear your passion and your aims for the work that you're doing in Brent with young people. And I'd like to perhaps end on, or give you actually the opportunity to end on a positive note by asking you if there's anything that you would like to say to either your members or to young people who have managed to, like you say, show resilience, remain positive, remain resourceful, and somehow come out the other end of this first wave. But are there any messages that you would like to send out to them?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, for the members of YBF, I would firstly like to thank them. So I would say thank you. Thank you for your hard work over the past 6 months. Thank you for being available. Thank you for responding to the need on the ground. I mean, we're talking about a local youth club just around the corner from here that met a family that hadn't received any food vouchers at the lockdown. They were able to kind of respond to that need and provide food for that family, very quickly. We're talking about membership, providing activities, and we can't thank the work. We had members putting themselves at risk to be there for young people. So we talk about safeguarding, and you're talking about safeguarding for young people, but also the staff. People have been going out daily to provide that response, to provide that visibility. So I want to thank the members for the hard work, and to provide reassurance that at Young Brent Foundation, and especially in my role as youth and community engagement lead, I'm here for you, and my job really is to make more visible the fantastic work that you're already doing. And like I said earlier, it's about looking at how we can work more in partnership to bring more resources to do what you do best. You're already doing a fantastic job, but what we want to do is let's do more. Let's reach more. Let's get more young people. That's what it's about. If we've got happy young people that are engaged, young people that are doing stuff, then that creates a good vibe on the ground. That creates a kind of good atmosphere in the borough. So I'm here for the membership to really support them to what they do best. And really to young people, I want to provide reassurance that look, the membership of Brent is a unique, talented, diverse group of members that have young people first, and to reassure them that there are things coming down the pipeline to meet their needs in terms of employment, and there's in terms of opportunities, in terms of activities, and that maybe they might not have seen things before, but there is a lot of things to look forward to now. And what I would say to a young person who's hearing this, who has the opportunity to hear this, is be available, be about. Because one thing I can promise you is I can't guarantee where you're going to go. I can't tell you where you're going to go, but you're going to go somewhere, and that's for sure. So get involved.
Deji, that's brilliant. Thanks again for coming in. Thank you again for your time and the work that you're doing in Brent to support young people and families and communities.
Thanks very much, Errol. It's been a pleasure.
If you've enjoyed this episode and would like to find out more about youth services available in Brent, please visit youngbrentfoundation.org. Join us again for the next episode. Until then, thank you for listening.